already distracting me. So we are very, very honored today to have Scott Waldron with us. And he's going to be leading a discussion and teaching us about working within a multi-generational workforce in the 21st century. Scott is an internal communication strategist who uses his extensive knowledge of brand development to build loyalty among individuals, teams, and organizations. And over the past 20 years, Scott's worked with clients such as JP Morgan Chase, the CDC. That was probably pretty interesting if it was recently. Royal Caribbean, Sesame Workshop, and the Coca-Cola Company, developing national and international communication programs. He believes the influence that you have, your alignment as an organization, and your ability to execute effectively all begin with you and how you communicate. And I think that this topic of discussion definitely will help us in our communication strategies, both at work and probably interpersonally as well. Scott said before we got started that if you have a question during this time frame, that you can just throw it in the chat, or even wait for a moment of pause and chime in. But we're also hoping to save a little bit of time at the end for a Q&A session, as long as we have time to do it. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Scott to take it away.
Thanks, Julia. And thanks, Carrie, for helping bring me in on this thing. It's super stoked. AAF is something I got introduced to this year, actually. I mean, I've been an agency owner now for 12 years and worked for an agency for 7 of those. Before that, 7 years before that. And I hadn't been involved or, gotten in touch with AAF. And then in Nashville, I was able to speak there. And then I've had different conversations with Columbus and with you and with Tucson. And so different groups. It's been really awesome getting to know the group a little bit more. So, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this multi-generational thing that we have going on. This is the first time in history that we know of that we have 5 generations in the workforce, 5 different generations. So we're going to talk a little bit about those, the dynamics of those, the strengths they bring to the table, and other things, right? So what I want you to do is, this is going to be interactive. This is a smaller group, so I would love some interaction in the chat. You don't have to have your cameras on if you're, shoveling food. Totally cool. I totally get it. So go ahead and just make sure that you're doing that. Have your microphone off when you're not chiming in, so we don't hear you chomping too much. And then if you have something to say, then put it in the chat. I may not see it, but Julia and Carrie, if y'all see it, or just come off mute and ask. Okay, like I said, small group. Let's just keep it interactive and keep it rolling. So I'm going to flip over to my screen here and go ahead and start with a short story. Y'all saw my slides change? Checking again. Okay, good. There's a story of a young man who is an expert mountain climber. He had races. He journeyed across the world and went on these races up these mountains. This one village nearby heard that this guy was coming and was like, what? Like, we're going to go attend this training session with this climber and see what he does. And so this climber came and they raced with a couple other local climbers. They're at the starting line. They all start. And this guy is so fast, strong, smart, capable, competent in everything that he's doing. And of course, he summits first, comes back down, and the entire village is cheering, just arms raised, roaring audience. People are going crazy because this guy has just met all the expectations that they have wanted to see. But there's one person in that crowd that is not cheering, and it is an old wise man. And the old wise man is just blank stare, nothing. Okay, just nodding his head, just like, okay, I see this. A couple other people come forth. They're like, hey, I'll race you. And he's like, all right, let's go. So, they gear up. A couple days later, they all race again. Again, the guy, strong, capable, just defeats everyone. Comes back down the mountain. Audience is cheering again. This guy's holding his hands in victory. He's done it. He has beat yet, he has won yet another race and defeated these individuals. Old wise man blank stare, nothing. Okay. Just sitting there. So the younger guy, the climber comes and he says, hey, anybody else want to go? Like, I would love to race anybody else out there. So the wise old man says, you know what? I got some people. He brings a blind man and an old woman and says, hey, here you go. Race these two. And the climber looks at him going, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I race them? That's not a race. And the old wise man says, listen, you go and race them. Just do what I ask. So they all line up, they gear up a few days later, and they race. Now, as you can imagine, the guy is just miles ahead of everybody else and is looking back. They barely cross the finish line, the starting line, barely making their way in the course. And he gets to the top. He's victorious, raises his hands again, comes back down the mountain, and is just like, look at that. Look at what I did. There's nothing from the audience at this point. They are just silent. They're just like, and the guy's like, why is anybody cheering for me? Like, I just won another race. And the wise old man comes up to him and says, listen, do it again. This time I want all of you to cross together. And he's like, what? Like, why would I do that? And he says, just do it. Just go race with the old woman and the blind man, race again. And I want you to cross together. This time he's like, whatever. So he goes to the starting line, gears up, and they all go slowly and methodically and probably just like torturously for this guy, like going up the mountain. And they get to the finish line eventually, and they all cross together. The guy didn't feel as epic, right? Comes back down the mountain, and the entire audience is on their feet, cheering, roaring. A parade is thrown, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. Now, the guys look, the climbers going, what's going on here? We all tied. Nobody won. Like, who are they cheering for? The old man puts his hand on the shoulder of the climber and he says, today, the audience cheers not for any one person. Today, the audience cheers for all of you. And this is the most important race you've ever run. So the wise old man goes on to explain that in life, right, we are all on these journeys, and we have people beside us, behind us, in front of us. And what are we doing together? Are we looking back, or are we reaching back? Okay. Are we looking back, or are we reaching back? And are we on this journey by ourselves? Because, there's the old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that principle stands here as well. And as we are looking around us, we are looking at people that we see as less competent, not as strong, not as much knowledge. They just don't have what we think is necessary. They're not like us. So we decide to discard them, leave them in the dust, wherever, because they can't hang. They just don't have what we value. So we leave them off to the wayside. If we want to make an impact, it's not about doing it by ourselves. Nobody wins the race by yourself. Sure, like eventually you can win a race by yourself, but over time, the crowd will stop cheering for you, right? You win over and over and over again, the crowd will stop cheering for you. Who are you bringing with you on that journey is what I want to ask, because here's what it comes down to. Multi-generational tug of war is what we live in right now, right? We've got one side tugging this way, one side tugging this way, and it's grueling for everyone involved. We don't make progress this way. This is not progress. It's not fast progress. Let's put it that way. If you're both sitting in a rowboat and you're rowing opposite directions, again, you're not making much progress. You could destroy the boat. You could all sink, which eventually could happen. So we want to think about how we can make progress in a smart way together. This is a quote I want to share with you. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love gossip in the place of activity. You know who said this? This guy, right? 400 BC. things have not changed too much. Okay. Eventually you will then be complaining about the younger generations, right? It's just this cycle. It's called being a human, and it's called being narrow in our perspective. And how do we open up our perspective and value what those other generations have to bring? First, it's about being self-aware. So number one, for ourselves, and number two, being others aware. So self-awareness, and then it comes down to emotional intelligence after that. So Julia wrote a little bit of my bio really quick. I've been doing this for over 20 years as working in communications. As you heard, I owned a design agency and did that for 12 years as a managing partner of multiple, and was a designer 7 years before that. I've worked in agency life. It is my heart. It has been part of who I've been for decades. And now I use all that knowledge and I use it to train teams now internally, doing coaching and leadership and team communication training with a lot of that knowledge. I still do some brand strategy work. I'm doing some work now for a private school in Tampa, Florida. I've got another project I'm working on with a global IT group. So there's different things I'm still doing. I speak. It's where I got to know you guys. I do coaching, and I've worked with a lot of different clients over the course of my career. So I use a lot of that knowledge. I try to bring it to you to see what I can add and how I can add value to what you're doing. So what I want to know, first of all, is I want to see who's in the room. Okay. So I don't have a poll for this necessarily, but in the chat, throw it up if you are part of the silent generation. Do we have any silent generation people in here? 1925 to 1945? Anybody? Okay. How about baby boomers? Got any baby boomers in here?
Yep.
Who's that? Bill?
Bill.
Are you all alone? Is the lone baby boomer, Bill?
You didn't have to say that.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Probably.
Got you.
Millennial at heart. I like that.
That's it. That's it. That's awesome. All right. How about our Gen Xers? 1965, 1980. How many of those we got?
Me.
Who is me?
Me.
Julia. Whitney. Was it Whitney? Is that who's
Yes, Whitney, Shell.
Okay, cool.
And Peggy.
Peggy. Okay, cool.
And Carrie.
And
and
Carrie, good.
Ananda.
I'm there with you. I mean, is it Ananda?
Ananda. Mhm.
Ananda? Cool. All right.
Oh, hey, Scott. I went to a private school. in
You as well.
Oh, good. Okay. Which one did you go to?
River Hills Christian Academy.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing work for Shorecrest right now.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, I got a call with them right after this one, in fact. So fun. Okay. Millennials. How many millennials we got in here?
Me.
You know, I don't know. According to this, we're millennials. I thought we were Zoomers. I don't know. Just going with it. Either or.
Yeah, you straddle that fence. Basically, these numbers, the dates will shift a little bit. These is what I mostly found. Some generations like to claim another generation as well, depending on the PR that's going around at the moment. Exennial. Okay, Julia, that's cool. All right.
Zennial, or I
Is
think that's how I say it.
is it
Whatever,
zennial?
one or the other.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one I always get lumped into.
Is it?
Because we like grew up before technology was like prevalent in your life.
Mhm.
Like I didn't have the internet.
Yeah,
And
I am
I
like
was like 13.
1980, so I'm like right in that line.
Yeah,
Me
for
too.
sure. Yep, that is the line for sure. Gen Z. How about y'all? Any Gen Zers on here? Okay.
I thought Victor was repping the Gen Z earlier.
Yeah.
I guess I've changed, it's okay. I've migrated to millennial now. so-
Okay. After I explain them all, just you can claim one after that.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds
Claim that one. All right, let's go through each one of them. What I want to do is talk about just this is a lesson in empathy and understanding. Okay. What I want you to do is try to think about, okay, what created the experiences around this individual? And then what do they bring to the table? And what are some of the challenges they wrestle with? Right. So the silent generation, think about where they came from, right? World War II, ramping up, rationing. They came from, the era of not having, right? It was this not having a lot, and parents scrapping at times for what they needed. The nuclear family was kind of created, this establishment of the nuclear family and gender roles and how they fit into society. All of this was being created during this time. So really the silent generation came through this idea of just strong, hard work, right? We are going to dedicate ourselves to getting out of all of the turmoil that has been happening with war and with depression and not having the things that we have, and being able to come back from that, being resilient and valuing stability. Now, granted, many of you, I'm sure, with your parents and or grandparents have become IT professionals when you go over and have to fix their email and figure out why their computer speakers don't work, right? So this is what happens, right? They're not very tech savvy. They can overestimate their abilities. They've come out of where they've come from, and they've built something amazing through their lives. And then they get to this age where all of a sudden they still want to live there. They still want to be in that space. And so they may overestimate what they have. Age and apathy starts to sit in. This is my dad. It's like, hey, dad, you should get that tooth fixed that's like broken. He's like, nah, I'm not going to fix that. I'll be gone soon anyway. Right. Like that's his mentality. And I'm like, no, man, like you should get that fixed, but he's just like, nah, you don't fix old stuff like that. It's just, it's going to go away. But that apathy can also set in. Okay. Now, what I want to do is talk about baby boomers. Now, Bill, you can, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that, this is just generalities that we're putting in here. Post-war boom, baby boomers exploded. There was a huge population increase. And they grew up with this idea of a surplus. The silent generation, their parents, came out of not having a lot. So they were very conservative and they held on to everything they had. And then the baby boomers at times grew up with surplus. Now, my parents didn't necessarily grow up with surplus, but as an economy as a whole, it seemed to take off. They experienced the moon landing. They're very family oriented. The Leave It to Beaver era, came from some of this. Very committed. They're very loyal. So they came in and they started getting jobs, and they were taught by their parents, you should just be grateful for what you have. And so this mentality of, you know what? I'm grateful that I have a job. I'm grateful that I have a paycheck. I'm grateful that I have a family and a house and that I have these things. And they get their golden watch at the end of their career, right? They just stay forever. That's what you do. And you get your watch and you retire, and then you go off and do your other things. Now they also make excellent mentors. They love using what they have to inspire you, because they have this thing and they have this knowledge and they want to share it with you. They also see you having gaps that they can hopefully fill. Now they're less inclined to welcome change. They like stability, more conservative in mindset, as far as not wanting a lot of change. They like things the way they are. And with the speed of technology and the speed of things happening, as well as them getting older in age, it's kind of this adverse effect. Like it's hard to keep up, right? So it can become psychologically, for any of us, scary, right? The unknown is a bit scary. Recognition and awards, the way they move through career was by getting pay raises or advancement in their jobs. That was the recognition that they got to establish that they were good at what they did. They needed that validation of recognition and awards. Now, some of us today, we still need that, but that generation as a whole generally need, and then they're generally not as tech savvy. Again, fits into that. Bill, anything you want to add to that or take away?
We like to talk a whole lot.
Okay, I'll leave ample time for you, Bill, if I have some to talk. So, Appreciate that. All right, Gen Xers. This is the generation that is more called the forgotten generation, right? At the bottom, if you see the generations, the neglected middle child, the baby bust generation. We've got the baby boomers on one side that just took off. And then we had this lull in birth rate when the Gen Xers came along. Also, does it say it in here? Their parents were the ones that were starting to get divorced more. That's where divorce started taking an uptick, was during the Gen Xers. And then the millennials on the other side had there was a big growth spike with millennials. So we've got these Gen Xers in the middle that tend to get forgotten. We've got this kind of rebellious idea of the Berlin Wall, rising levels of divorce. And then early mobile tech, the PC came out, Pong was invented. We're all like, this is awesome, right? Like, this is crazy. All these things are happening. And, Gen Xers were like the ones that didn't have any tech, and then started to figure out, oh my gosh, tech is here, and tech can be used in a personal computing device in my home. And this is really interesting. So that kind of took its wave into that generation. They're some of the best overall workers. They really work hard for what they're trying to do. They're very independent in that sense. So they consider self-reliance a very big thing for them. They're kind of this bridge between the traditionalists and the tech generations, because they didn't have it and then they did. So they kind of bridge that a little bit. They're very skeptical, though, of people in authority, right? It's this whole, and I say it all the time, it's that, and what better way to put the idea of grunge, right? Grunge music, or Rage Against the Machine, or anything else that came out that was this angst idea, or this pushing against authority idea, really started to take foot with the Gen Xers. So that kind of encapsulated that generation. Millennials, 9/11 and terrorism. Millennials have never known a world without global war and terrorism, ever, right? Some of the earlier generations, there's been periods of peace, right, in some way, shape, or form, but not to the millennials. They've always existed in a war, at a place of conflict. Social media and reality TV became a huge thing, centering in on individuals, personal fame, personal brand really became a big thing with millennials, and because everybody could develop one easily and become something of notoriety around the globe instantaneously. So that was something that was big. They're believed to be the most tech savvy. The millennials took tech, evolved it, and then created what we call selfies today. So thank you, millennials, for the selfie. We appreciate you. So they've taken tech and they've evolved it, which is so cool, right? They're really enthusiastic. They love to live life, and they love it in a social space. They are determined to right the wrongs of the past. They see what the Gen Xers and the baby boomers and the silent generation, what we've done to the planet, or what we've done to the economy, or what we've done to each other. And they say, we are going to not be angry at them. We're going to take it upon ourselves to right the wrongs of the things that they've done and just help, right? That's our goal. But sometimes it is this idea of being fatally idealistic, right? They have this painted picture in their minds of this glorious world that they want to paint or to bring about to everyone. And it doesn't happen as fast as they want it to, because it's this tech generation of like instant, right? Which we are all kind of in that now, but creates impatience. So career impatience sets in, because their career centers around this idea of not necessarily loyalty to company, but loyalty to purpose, loyalty to a bigger picture, a bigger plan of what I want for my life and what I want for everybody else. And if that means I job hop in order to create that for myself and others, then so be it, right? So that can set in. Unrealistic job expectations. Their parents were the ones that started saying, us Gen Xers and probably baby boomers, saying, hey, you know what? You can do anything and you can be anyone. You can do anything and you can be anyone, over and over and over and over again. So they go through life thinking, hey, I can do anything and be anyone. My parents told me that, and I've been indoctrinated to think that my entire life. And so this is what I want. And so we sit there and go, whoa, hold up. Wait a second. What are you asking for? No, 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 no. That's not how it works around these parts. That's not what I did when I got my job. I was just grateful to have a job. Right. And they're like, no, no, no. Millennials are like, no, this is what I want because this is what I'm worth and this is what I demand. And it's kind of, this is what I need to do to achieve my purpose. It's always behind that ideal future that they have for themselves and for others. So we just come from different places because of where we have been and what we're doing. Gen Zers, they were born in this idea of the economic downturn, right? And I mean, when they started to come in of 2007, 2008, all this other stuff that started happening, global warming became a huge focus. They were the first generation with a real world language where they were in touch with the global economy. It wasn't just about their state or their community or even their country. It was a global language that they had. They value relationships. They want to find creative ways to educate themselves. They're always looking for how-tos and, blew up YouTube basically to become what it is today. Entrepreneurial, they love to build, again, from that YouTube idea that, hey, all these people have built businesses for themselves. They built these ideas for themselves. I can do that too. So they're very entrepreneurial in that sense. But here's the thing with the Gen Zers, they don't really face challenge well. Like if you bring challenge face-to-face conflict is not welcomed really or comfortable for them. They have, they live their lives with screens, and those screens act as a buffer psychologically to people. That could be good, that can be bad in different ways. It's just the fact that they use screens and they use digital devices as a communication medium more often than other generations tended to. That's how they grew up, and that is how they use them. Now, this has led to little to no attention span, which I would have to say that's with a lot of us, right? We all kind of have fallen into this realm and being very tech reliant. Okay. So while the millennials are tech savvy, while the Gen Xers are more of a tech bridge, the Gen Zers have become tech reliant. Okay. So if we said that Gen Xers kind of, learned how to use tech, millennials, they kind of picked it up. They've used it over time as well. The Gen Zers were born with an extra appendage, and it was called a cell phone, right? They like came out of the womb with a phone, and that is what they use to live life. They live life with a digital device. All right, so this is kind of what the population looks like right now. This is maybe have fluctuated a little bit. The data it's trailing a little bit right now. But as you can see, the bubbles are shifting a little bit more. I would probably say that these bubbles over here, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, have gotten a little bit smaller, and the millennials and the Gen Zers have gotten a little bit bigger as far as the workplace is concerned. We're seeing Gen Xers start to take ownership in companies. Baby boomers are starting to sell or starting to retire from or think about retirement. And then we've got millennials moving into management positions that are really starting to take on leadership roles, which is really exciting to see what they can bring to the table and how they're going to shape the future of what we have, set up. This is happening, people. It's going to happen. So we need to embrace it and learn how to work within it. So these are the 5 different generations. And this is really quick what I will say to kind of boil this down. Silent generation, loyal but traditional. Then you've got the baby boomers, collaborative but change averse. Gen Xers, independent but bleak. Millennials, driven but entitled. And then Gen Z, progressive but disloyal. These are kind of the perceptions of society and the boxes that we tend to put them in. There are exceptions to all these things, but as a general rule, this is what we do as a population. We kind of segment people and put them in these different areas. So I want you to think about these things that we've talked about as a precursor, as a setup to what we're going to talk about. How do we build bridges between these generations, and how do we end up working together in a way that's productive and powerful, as opposed to holding us all back and just complaining all the time because they don't do it the way we do it, right? And they don't see the way we see it. So we need to learn to do that. It's all empathy. It's all trying to understand the other side. I want you to look at this picture real quick. What do you see? Type it in the chat or speak it out. I don't care. What do you want to say?
Looks like an apprentice or maybe his kid learning the trade of shoemaking.
Okay. So we did have a typical mentor, mentee, master, apprentice type scenario going on, right? Getting Pinocchio vibes. Yeah, totally. Totally. I get you. So we've got the master, right? And the apprentice. That's how we see this thing, right? We've got the older, wise, more experienced individual teaching the young individual how to fix shoes, right? As a cobbler, how to repair shoes or make shoes. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to flip your mindset. What if this kid is the master and this old man is the apprentice? What if in this case, the young man said, hold up, look at this. Have you ever thought about this? And the old man is actually watching him, trying to figure out how he's doing what he's doing so he can mimic it, instead of what we typically think of as the other way around, right? It is this mindset shift that I think we all need to make. Now, I'm going to throw one more thing at you. What if the master isn't even in the room? What if the master said, hey, you two, we need to come up with a new way to make shoes because our competition's killing us. And I want you two to bring your knowledge, both of your experiences, to the table and figure out a better way to make shoes. Now they have to work in a team together and collaborate and make these shoes together, right? Interesting to think about that. Now, inner perception drives outer manifestation. What do I mean by this? The way you think about that individual will be how you treat that individual. If I think that person is a pain in the butt, if I think that person is slow, if I think that person's incapable, I'm going to treat them that way. But if I think that person has value, and if I think that person has something to bring, I'm going to act like they have value, and I'm going to act like they have something to bring. Fair? I'm going to introduce you to a tool. As a giant consultant, we introduce teams to 60 plus tools that are simple, that are scalable, that are sustainable through organizations. Really easy to take on, but really powerful and impactful. So I'm going to share this one with you, and I'm going to give you a couple little exercises to run through or things to think about as we're going through. I'm going to ask you some questions as well as we go through this, so that we can stay on the same page and I can get some feedback from you as we go through. So this is called the Developing Others tool, or it's nicknamed the Apprenticeship Square. This is how we correctly mentor others and work with others in a way that is empowering and leads to progress. This is for anybody, younger, older, but this is how we need to do it. We all start at this level of unconscious incompetence. This is the place where we come into, maybe we've just graduated. We've got so many awards in school and we got all these things. We did so many great things in school, but we come into a job and we're like, oh my gosh, like I got this. Like I was awesome in school. So I don't know I suck at this thing yet, right? I'm unconsciously incompetent. Now the master or the mentor is saying, no. Hold up. I know you were awesome in school, but you're going to watch. Okay. You just sit there. You're going to watch how I do this. Okay. So we're at this stage. Now, at some point they round the corner after they've watched and understood what I do. I'm going to say, now as the master, I'm going to do, you're going to help. I'm going to give you some tasks. I'm going to help you figure this thing out. Now the apprentice is starting to become consciously incompetent. Now they're starting to go, maybe I'm not as good at this. I didn't study this part in school, or now I have to do this in the real world. And there's this pressure and I can't do whatever I want. Now it's like, it's a little bit different. So now I'm consciously incompetent and I'm starting to get like, oh, like nervous. Okay. But as the mentor, as the master stays with us, helps us through this process, we start to round the corner to the you do, I help. Now the master saying, listen, I'm going to do, now you're going to help. I'm going to give you more responsibility. I'm going to help you. You're probably going to fall on your face a little bit. It's not going to kill the company, but I'm going to still give you some responsibility. And now they become consciously competent. Now they're starting to roll with it. They're starting to feel it. They're starting to groove, right? But what happens is they fall back into this space because they mess up. They go, oh gosh, maybe I'm not as good at this. I thought I had it, but maybe I don't. Maybe I just suck. Maybe I'm just not built for this, right? And then they're like, no, actually, I'm pretty good at this, right? They come back in, they fix it, and they get, right? So they swing back and forth like a pendulum, back and forth from this side to this side. And eventually they reach this side of unconscious competence where they don't even have to think about it anymore, right? They're just smooth. It's easy. They can roll with it. And that's the best part as a mentor or as is to sit there and watch as a leader and say, you know what, you're going to do it. I'm going to watch. You're going to make it your own. You're going to blaze your own path, do your own thing. And I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to hang out. Okay. Now, what I want to know from you, throw it in the chat. Which side are you really good at as far as being the mentor? Okay. Are you great at the I do you watch part? Like, I'm just going to do it all. You hang out and just watch. Or is it the I do you help? Or is it the you do I help part? Okay. You do it. I'm going to help. I'm going to be in the back seat. Or is it the you do I watch part? Which one of these are you really good at, or do you just love? You try really hard for it, Carrie. Are you good at it? Are you good at that part?
I am good and not good at it. Some days I'm really good at it, and some days I feel myself failing at it.
Okay. So as a leader, look what's happening. As a leader, you're going like this. You're going, I'm consciously
flipping.
competent as a leader. And then you're like, oh, some days I'm not. Some days I kind of like,
Exactly.
should be doing this, right? So you swing back and forth as a leader as well. So that's good. All right. You do, I help. So Ananda, tell us about that. What do you mean it took years for the you do, I help? What's your experience with that?
So I've come up, progressed through my career, starting first as a graphic designer, worked in several positions in that capacity. And then as I've kind of grown into management roles, you know, I don't have as much time, or I shouldn't be doing the graphic design, you know, the hands-on portion of that part of the job. But because I can do it, I think I know the best way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes a really long time to learn the skill set of just trusting your team. And just because they do something a different way than you, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And you actually can just kind of throw the instructions out there and then back away.
Yeah. Right. And it's hard, right? It's hard.
It is very hard when you started in the field, in the capacity of being the one who did the work. That's for sure.
Yeah. And to trust that they'll do it as well as you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can let go of this, right? It's my baby, or I'm responsible. It's my reputation on the line, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that's, yeah. And there for a time, myself and a business partner had our own little boutique advertising agency here in Roanoke. And when we would bring in designers and freelancers, then it really was hard because yes, my name was literally on the door. So yeah,
it totally is. So what's interesting is that we in the creative industry, and it may happen in a lot of other industries as well, but specifically because I come from this world, I can say we started out as makers and then we became managers over time, because that's generally what we do, right? We start working out of school somewhere, and then we start taking on some freelance clients on the side. Then we get so many that we go, well, I'm just going to start my own thing because I've got enough clients now. I can just start my own thing. So then you start doing your own thing. So that's what happens with this entrepreneurial idea. And now all of a sudden we become a boss and we become a manager of people. And we're like, whoa, I didn't go to school for this. I don't know how to do this, right? I just run a cool place full of creatives because we're fun and we do fun things, but we make cool stuff. But I don't really know how to communicate with you as a leader, right? Like that's something different. And the thing is that as creatives, if you are the creative side of this, is that we're feelers, right? We're feelers, we're whiteboarders, we are looking off in the future at this idealistic picture of what the future could be. And we don't have a lot of the people keeping us straight kind of thing, right? The people to create a lot of structure. That was me in my case, right? I didn't hire enough people that could create some structure around me to help me stay on point and stay focused. So I thought that that was really interesting to think about as well. Okay, so let's keep flying here. There's a point of this that is called the pit of despair. And this is what happens, okay? So maybe Carrie, you feel this as a leader sometimes. Maybe we all feel like this when we're going through our jobs, or we're trying to mentor somebody, or we're being mentored by somebody. We are the mentee. We fall in the pit of despair. And this is what the pit of despair, it's at this corner because it's, if we as a mentor are leading somebody older than us, leading somebody younger than us, whatever, if we are leading them, but we say, okay, I'm going to do, you're going to help. And then we say, we just skip right to the end of you do, I'm going to watch now. Okay, you got this. See you later. I'm going to go. That's what happens, right? We go, I do, you watch. I do, you help. Peace. Like, I'll be over here if you need me. And then they're like, whoa, okay, I guess I can try to do this because I'm consciously incompetent. Then I realize that I'm kind of horrible. So I fall in the pit of despair. This is what the pit of despair looks like. It's like this deep, dark, black hole where we sit there and we're like, ugh, I feel horrible down here.
Been there, 100%.
Yeah, thank you. We've all been there. It's kind of this like lonely, discouraging, helpless place where we're a victim, where we sit there and say, I suck at my job. I don't know if I deserve to be here. I don't know why they hired me in the first place. We take this role as a father, as a mother, as a friend. Sometimes we're like, why do you even like me? You know, it's like this self place, right? The problem is there are other people down the pit of despair and we're all talking together. We're all going, yeah, you know what? I'm going to use you, Carrie. No offense. Okay. Yeah, Carrie, she totally threw me in the pit last week. Like she totally threw my idea out the window and totally took on the project. I guess she didn't trust me to get it done. So she just did it for me. And then somebody else comes along and is like, yeah, Carrie did that to me too. And then I'm like, yeah, Carrie sucks as a boss. Like, right. So we start going like this and we start like getting our Carrie juices and we start going, this is horrible. Carrie's a horrible. So we start toxicity and all this gossip happens. Carrie, I'm sure, is a great leader. So, but I'm saying, right, is that's how toxicity happens within organizations. We start saying, you know, Bill as the baby boomer, he doesn't know what's going on in our time. He doesn't know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, Bill doesn't know what's going on. So we gang up against Bill. Now it's me against Bill. It's me against Carrie. And now we have silo turf wars happening all over the place. We have multi-generational tug of war happening. We have all types of things happening within our generation, within our workforce, that is causing us to not get stuff done the way it should be. And for us to not enjoy going to work, right? We sit there and go, I gotta go work with that person again, right? That's not cool. Now, there's 3 things we need to get people out of the pit of despair. Number 1 is time. So if I'm mentoring somebody, if somebody's struggling, not performing well, time, informal and formal time with that individual, combined with vision, combined with, hey, you know what do you see for yourself? Where are you going? Where do you want to be at this company? Where do you want to be in the next year? Like, what do you want? What kind of responsibilities you want, right? Vision combined with encouragement, specific encouragement, not generic. Meaning specific is, hey, great job in that presentation, how you led up to the argument of what we're trying to build here. I really liked how you framed that in the presentation. That is specific encouragement. If I come to you with specific encouragement, vision of where I see you combined with your own vision of yourself, why I hired you in the first place, and I'm spending time with you, there's no way you're going to stay in the pit of despair. You're going to know I'm for you. You're going to know you want me to climb out of that pit. You're going to know all these other things about it that I want for you. And there's no way you're going to stay in the pit of despair. Now, what I want to do is talk about what's the ROI of investing in somebody and investing in the different people within our organizations. I don't care what age, what generation, what discipline, whatever. What's the return on investment for this? So number one, it's capacity. We want to free ourselves up to do new challenges and to take on new roles and to do new things that excite us. We don't want to be doing the things that drain us every day. So number one, it's capacity. If I can multiply, if I can give you the things I don't like to do because you like to do them, awesome, right? Let's go. Scalability. It allows our team and our organization to grow and to preserve our core DNA of what we are. We're not being spliced out all over the place, and we're not getting like into minutia, and we're not, being, we don't have a lid put on what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. And then last is influence. We have lifelong influence with that individual. That person's going to look back on us and they're going to go, you know what? I had this job about 5 years ago where this person really invested in me. That was awesome. Like, I respect. They may not remember, what Maya Angelou says. I didn't remember what they said, not what they heard, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Oh wait, what you said, what you did. That's it. People won't remember what you said, what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. That lifelong influence is going to carry with you for a long time. So what's the problem here? So I painted a picture. We've gone from understanding who these generations are to moving into the idea of how do we mentor each other appropriately, whether we're older or younger, in any generation we're in, and making sure how do we get people out of the pit of despair? So this is all about mentorship. This is all about leading, right? Leading ourselves, leading our teams, leading other people. And I know some of you are part of teams and not necessarily at that leadership level yet, but you will get there. So why don't we do this? Like, what's the problem? Here's an idea, right? We really, really love to do the I watch and then, or the I do, you watch, and then we move to you do, I watch. We don't really like this stuff. Can anybody type in the chat or say out loud, what's the difference between these words, I do, you watch, and you do, I watch, with these words, I do, you help, you do, I help? What's the key difference? Peggy says teaching. Yeah, what's the key word difference here? You got it. Yeah, Peggy said teaching. It's Julia, said the helping piece, right? We love to watch because then it doesn't require a lot of effort. It's really easy to just do that part of it. Okay. Like, cause then we can do our other stuff. Like, I'm going to be over here. I got so many things I got to do. I've got so many irons in the fire. I wear so many hats, so much on my plate. I'm just going to watch. Okay. I do, you watch. And then you do, I'm going to watch over here. This side takes a lot of intentionality and it takes a lot of time. Okay. It's costly to invest in people. So this is where the pit of despair also falls, because we don't take the time to do these things. We just don't take the time. So here are some reasons why we don't do it. Okay. As I list these, I want you to think about them and then maybe throw them in the chat. So one of the reasons why you don't do it is because not everybody else can do it as well as I can. The other reason, how do I find extra time to do this? I got to mentor somebody. I don't have time for that. Sometimes us think, well, my skills, I don't know, they're kind of outdated, or maybe they're so unique. I don't really think that they're worth imitating, or maybe I don't think they're that great. Will I lose influence if I train others? Like, will I, like push myself out of this position or push myself out of this job if I train somebody else to do it? And how do I know who to mentor? Like, I didn't know I was supposed to mentor. And how do I know who to do that to? How can I mentor people older than me? So we may have this, like, I don't have anything to offer those people. Like, they've been around longer. They have more experience. They'll probably know. I don't have any place that I can mentor them. Do I really want to be that vulnerable? So because mentorship takes being vulnerable, accepting that you're not amazing and your mistakes, some things that being willing to fail, right? Sometimes and struggle is tough. What if I let people down and disappoint them? So you don't want that pressure because that means failure. And so you don't like to fail. Am I really prepared for such a long-term commitment? Again, that kind of goes with the time piece. Am I prepared to go through conscious incompetence in public, right? That's the vulnerability piece. Am I okay with letting people know that I kind of suck at this thing and being okay with that piece of it? So any of you who struggles with any of these? Julie says time's always a factor. Yep. It's costly. It takes time. It takes effort. And if we're not intentional about it, it doesn't happen. Any others stand out to anybody else? Carrie says all of them at some point. Steve, how do I mentor people older than me? Peggy, can they do it as good as me? Whitney, how do you mentor when working remote? Hey, that's a good one. Yeah, it takes even more intentionality because you're not in the same room with everybody. You got to make schedule. You got to schedule meetings and actually take time to do it. Louise says, "What if I let people down, disappoint them?" Yep. Yeah, it's definite pressure. Everybody, these things are real. And identify, you may never have thought about this. You may never have thought, why don't I invest more in people? Or why don't I pour into people more? Or why don't I mentor people? Because we just talked about why it's good to scalability, right? Those different ideas we went into before. That's the reason why we should be doing these things. We can scale ourselves. We can concentrate on the things we want to. We can build influence with others. We can leave an impression, a legacy. All those things are the benefits, but we still don't do them. And this could be why. Mentorship, it has to be intentional. Because I always say culture directs behavior in two ways. It makes behavior possible, or it determines that a behavior will occur. Culture is that atmosphere in your office, okay? If I have an office full of 100 people and I move you across the street, brand new office, new decor, everything, it's bigger, whatever, you got all this other stuff in there now, but I move the same 100 people over there, you're going to have the same culture. But if I have the same office of 100 people and I switch out 50 of those people, you're going to have a completely different culture. The people are what make your culture what it is. The atmosphere that's created there is what makes it what it is. So how do we shape each other and how do we build each other? I'm going to give you a bunch of free stuff. Okay. So a couple of things. First off, I offer a free 90-minute session for anybody who wants to do this with their team. A 5 Voices bootcamp. 5 Voices is a system that I use. It's based on Myers-Briggs science. If any of you have taken Myers-Briggs or DISC assessments or Enneagram or what superhero am I, whatever. I use 5 Voices. It's a simplified version of Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs, all those other ones can get pretty complicated. But I'll offer a 5 Voices bootcamp. It teaches you how to, it informs you a little bit about your own voice and about those on your team and helps you understand the dynamics of the team. It's really, really fun exercise that I run through. I offer that as a way to serve you first. I always believe in service first. So allow me to do that with one of your teams. If you just want to go take a 5 Voices assessment for free, you can do that. There's actually a paid pro results document that I'm going to send you so you can see what it looks like. If you want to purchase the pro results, it'll give you more in-depth analysis of your voice. The free results will give you the first voice. The pro results gives you all of them. It's more comprehensive. It's really, really powerful, but I'm giving it to all of you for half off. So if you click the link in the email I send you, you'll get it for half off if you want that. But I give you a free demo one so you can see what it is before you want it, if you want it. I'll give you this whole slide deck. And I'm also going to give you a workbook that you can use with your teams if you want to run through this presentation with them. It has questions in it to prompt you and have good discussion in the team. And last, but certainly not least, I am starting a beta group for creatives. So I would love it if any of you would love to be involved in that process. You will get an email after this as well that can show you how to be in that. I'll explain that, all about what that is. It's a 2-month process. It is It's free. I'm going to give away my coaching for free that I usually charge every month. The only fee you're going to have is a $49 software fee because it's a program called Altitude. And I can't do anything about that. That's a license for the platform, but that's what it is, $49 a month. And you're going to get coaching from me in a small group setting with other creatives in your industry to learn how to lead more effectively, empower your people, empower yourself. Okay. Just text AAF to 33777 and you'll get all the automation stuff that'll go along with that. Okay. So it does not have to be this way, people. It does not have to be multi-generational tug of war. Okay. Treat every people issue as a culture issue until proven otherwise, because that's what it is. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Roanoke, for having me. I really appreciate it. We went right up to the minute. I'm really sorry about that. I'll stay on for just a minute. I do have a call right after this, but I'd love to see if there's a question out there I can answer. And thank you, everybody.
Anybody want to chime in? I feel like I have lots of questions, but maybe I just need to join the leadership group
Yes, you do.
for all of the volume of questions that I have.
You totally should join it.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
Currently, I'm not leading anyone, but maybe that'll change sometime. in the
Nope. Hold up.